Everything seems to be working.
Yes. And you from the chat, you can talk. Where are you from? What countries? What states from Brazil? Ecuador, Indonesia. Indonesia is always here. Ecuador.
Yeah, lots of people from Ecuador. Yes, Everton will be there. I'll be there as well. I'll be at GDC. Is anybody else going to GDC?
Everton are going to. Juliana from Game Jam Plus are coming to GDC too. Looking forward to meet you in person then. Brasil, Rio de Janeiro. Anyone else? I see more people in the chat. Ecuador. I think we can start. Gustavo, you can start to. Você pode começar a gravar também? Please.
I'm recording.
Okay, thank you. The stage is yours, Don.
Oh, yes. Hello, I'm Dom. I'm the web games advocate at Crazygames. That basically means I am the bridge between you guys, the developers, and the business team. I also I talk to the game engines and help them improve their web export. So we've got some good conversations with Godot at the minute, and among a few others. I have been making games for about 20 years. I started with Macromedia Flash. That was before it was owned by Adobe. That's how long I've been doing this. And I've done over 100 game jams myself. A lot of those were kind of an hour or less, so very short, intense jams on my are the things that I really like to do. So yeah, basically my job is like day to day. My job is offering hands-on support with the SDK, with monetization and optimization, and talking to developers. So you guys are at least interested in submitting to the Crazygames category, and so why might you actually want to do that and make a web game? So generally, when you're on Steam, Steam players want these really long 40+ hour epic games with a ton of content. So like Silksong, which released a few months ago or 6 months ago now, that was 10 years worth of development, and they had a budget of like 150 million from Hollow Knight. So those sorts of games are great, but they're very difficult to make and they take a lot of time and money. On the web, small games actually tend to do quite well. It's a very different audience, so you actually have to keep them coming back. So it's not a like they'll play the game for a bit and then leave. You have to keep them coming back. But the best way to do that is actually to just make a really fun game, and that's what you guys want to do, and that's what you're here to do. So our kind of core metrics are playtime and retention. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But both of these numbers go up when your core game loop is really, really fun. So that's why I love web games, and that's why I think you should submit to the Crazygames category. So web games are these kind of instant access games. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to wait for installs or installation. You don't have to wait for your installation. You just click a link and go. They're also cross-platform capable, so PC, mobile, tablet. This actually really increases your reach, so you essentially build once and your game is available on multiple devices. And one thing we really recommend is that you make sure your device works on mobile and has mobile input if it's possible, because it just increases your reach massively. I think about 40% of our players come from the mobile web or mobile app at the minute, so that's a really important segment as well. And then again, they are really easy to share, so they become these really social things that you can players can invite others instantly. Again, no downloads. It's a really, really quick, easy flow. Sorry, again, I'm just recovering from a cold, so and some tonsillitis, so that's why I'm a bit croaky and coffee. So why now? Web games historically have been it's been quite difficult to build for. There've been quite a lot of problems, but we're actually at a point now where the tech's ready. All of your modern devices are quite powerful, and even the lower end stuff can run web games really well. Browsers themselves are getting faster, and we've got new tech like web GPU, so that's now supported across platforms. Across all of the browsers, web GPU is available, and it's one of my favorite new bits of tech, basically, because it means you can make these nicer looking games. Again, smaller games tend to do really well, but you can have these nicer looking games with big 3D models and all of this sort of thing that works on the web and will just run natively, and it's brilliant. I make a lot of bullet hell games. One of the things I've used web GPU for is basically putting incredible amounts of bullets on the screen. So before web GPU, I got about 1,000 bullets on the screen at 60 FPS. With web GPU, I use a compute shader, and I now get 12,000 bullets at 60 FPS on the browser. No game actually needs that, but it's nice to have the overhead because performance on web can you still need to be aware of it. So it's nice to have the overhead so you can spawn a bunch of bullets and not worry that is taking up all of your CPU time. Just to talk a bit about Crazygames, we have 50 million monthly active users, 300 million monthly game players, and 3,000 developers. So what that means is we have a huge amount of players and a huge amount of people playing games on the site, and we don't have that many developers or games. So your games actually get a lot of visibility just by virtue of being on the platform. So most games that go through full launch, and I'll talk about how it is all structured in a second, but most games that go through full launch will sit on the new games carousel for 2 or 3 days, and in that time you will have around 1 million impressions, which is very difficult to get anywhere else. It's a really good way of getting people to actually see your game, which again is just so hard as a smaller developer with less budget. So generally, what I tell people is you don't need to do much paid user acquisition yourself. So that would be like running ads, doing marketer influencing, all of that. All of that costs quite a lot of money, and you don't really need to do it on web games because the players come to you just through the portals like Crazygames. How do you actually make any money from them? Because all web games are free. So all games on Crazygames are playable for free. We use ads, and there are a few different types of ads. The most common one, the most high value one, this is rewarded ads. This is when the player clicks a button and they get some sort of reward. These tend to have the highest payout, so you want to use them. You want to use these in your game if you plan on taking it to Crazygames. So this is generally like if you die, you might have a rewarded ad to respawn in the same place, or if you earn some currency or XP, you might have a button that plays a rewarded ad and then you get double that. Those sorts of things work really well. You can also give the player a speed boost for 30 seconds or whatever if they watch a rewarded ad. So these tend to have quite high payout because they are user initiated, and the players don't actually mind too much about these ones because they're choosing to do it. The most common one you'll see on web games is the mid-game ads, otherwise known as interstitial ads. These are a full screen ad that's shown during natural pauses. The user doesn't have any control over whether this is shown or not. So maybe you level up, maybe the game ends, maybe you've just died, something like that. The game pauses, a full screen ad shows. This gets quite a lot of volume with banner ads, which is the next type as well. Banner ads are a static banner. You'll have seen them before. It's a big rectangle on your game that shows an advert. Mid-game and banner ads will have much higher views, which means they still earn a decent amount, but the rewarded ads have the highest payout. These are the ones you really want to be looking at. And then we have in-game purchases, which are a growing segment. Basically, you pay for something with real money and get something in the game. These fewer users use them, but the ones that do spend more. So these make your revenue per 1,000 plays, which is the number we track for revenue. It can go quite high. At the minute, this is invite only. If you've got a good game, reach out. We'll chat about it. It's a fairly complicated process. We can help you through it. It requires some manual stuff on our side. It requires some manual stuff on Xola's side. But again, the upside is quite good. So how do you actually go from having your game to having a game published on Crazygames? So you'll make a game, you'll integrate the SDK. We've got really good documentation. I'm actually in charge of writing some of that. So I've come in and kind of restructured things and made it work better. So if you've got any complaints about that, I'm the guy to talk to. But there's the SDK on our documentation site. I'll just drop a link to that here. It's a really easy integration. It won't take it takes less than a day to put it in, and then you upload. So once you've uploaded, so when you upload, you'll get a screen that looks a bit like this. You tell us your game name, your game engine, whether you've used compression, and then you just upload the files and then go to QA. We have quite a rigorous QA process. Before you launch fully, you'll go through what's called basic launch, and I've got another link for you here. This is a formatted weirdly. I've put a guide to the basic launch there. Basic launch is a short test. It's a 2-week test in front of a limited audience. Monetization's turned off. You don't actually need to have the SDK integrated at this point. But we track some kind of key performance indicators. These are average playtime, day one retention, and conversion. This is so we can have an idea of how well the game is doing, and we'll give you feedback based on that. The link I've posted goes into these in a lot of detail. Average playtime is obviously just how long players spend in your game on average. That's not in any menus and things like that. It's actually like playing the game. You tend to want this to be about 10 minutes or more. 10 minutes is a good target to aim for. So that's 10 minutes every session. And then day one retention measures how many players come back. So it's the ratio of players who played on the first day and also played on the second day. So that tells us how sticky your game is, how much players are going to come back to it. You want that to be probably around 10%. That is a good measurement to aim for. If you're doing 10% day one retention, that's probably gonna be quite a good sign for the game. And then conversion is the ratio of players who played for at least 1 minute compared to the clicks on the play now button. So that's a complicated one, but it basically says how many players are still playing a minute after they clicked play. So this is where load times are really important and where your tutorial is really important. So what you want to do is get the player into the game as quickly as possible, and that's not a menu, that's actually playing the game. And so the general flow that we recommend is that if possible, defer any loading, so as much loading as possible. So anything that isn't needed for the first time you kind of play, if you can defer that to later, so you can use Unity addressables. I think some of the other engines have decent ways to do that as well. But if you're in Unity, it's the addressable assets that you want to use for that. So defer your loading till after the tutorial. You load the tutorial straight away and let the player play. Don't just throw loads of text at them. Let them actually play and figure out how to have fun in your game. You want to be doing that very quickly. So within that first minute, they want to kind of understand your game, understand how they can have fun with it, and then start to play. So that's and conversion, you typically want about 85% or higher. With all of these numbers, the higher they are, the better. I've given you some reasonable benchmarks. So playtime 10 minutes, day one retention 10%, conversion 85%. Anything higher than that is good. So if your players are playing longer, they're seeing more ads, you're getting more money. If your day one retention is higher, then players are coming back. So that kind of feeds the algorithm and lets it know that players are really liking the game, and then also because they've come back and seen things a second time, they're seeing more ads, so you get more money. And then conversion, if people are dropping off before a minute, then you're doing something wrong. You would really want that to be as close to 100% as possible. Hopefully that all makes sense. There's the basic launch metrics guide that I posted in the chat. That has some tips for each one. It will take me far too long to go through that now, but that'll have a couple of tips for each one. There are certain things you can do to improve that, to improve those metrics. And do just ping me, reach out, and send me a message if you're struggling to understand any of that, or you want to know if what you're doing will work well or won't work well. Or I'm very happy to bounce ideas off you. So. Once you've done basic launch, you'll want to go. You'll go through full launch, and that's where your game is actually live to the full audience. You've got your monetization. You're actually making money at that point. There are requirements for your games, and I've put this in here because it's really important. The big one is that the initial download. Sorry. The big one is that the initial download size stays below 50 megabytes. This is really, really important because basically, the longer your game takes to load, the more players will leave. So you might have 200,000 people click on your game's icon, and 60% of them will have left because it's loaded for longer than 5 seconds. So the lower you can get your initial download size, the better. This is a really, really important metric. And I have done a lot of work with all of the game engines getting this down. If you're using Unity, there's a package called the web stripping tool. The web stripping tool on Unity. In Godot, it's a bit more involved. If you're making a pure HTML game with something like 3 or Babylon or something like that, you're going to have really small download sizes anyway. But Unity and Godot in particular, the download sizes can get quite big. So So please do reach out if you've got questions and want to know how to get them down. And I have another guide here, and I've pasted in the chat. I've pasted in the chat now. Come on. There we go. That goes through kind of a couple of tips on on load times. Again, this is a really, really important metric. So that's something to watch out for. Once you've passed the basic launch, you will have your game will go through RQA. This is a manual process. Every game goes through it, and RQA team can be a little bit brutal. They'll have a lot of feedback for you, and sometimes so if your game's done really well in basic launch, they'll have some feedback and you go. If your game's kind of done middlingly, or if your game hasn't done quite so well, we'll talk to you. We'll try and bring the numbers up. But that typically you'll find from our QA team, you'll get a lot of feedback. That can seem a bit daunting, but I promise it's really, really good. Our QA team really knows what they're doing. They know what games work. They know they will pick it apart, and they'll have a lot of feedback. And this is one of the most valuable things about releasing on Crazygames. Is our QA team really do a fantastic job. But it can seem a bit brutal and a bit like they're tearing your game to shreds. They're not. They just want your game to succeed. So the last thing I have to talk about is what games do well on Crazygames. I'm sure that's something you want to know. Broadly, we have quite a wide variety of games. So rock climbing there is a kind of rage game type thing. It's a bit like Getting Over It with Benedict Foddy. That sort of thing works quite well because rage games produce very high emotions. So they're called high arousal emotions. That means basically you get really angry and you do something about it, and that something is usually sharing or posting, which works really well because you can just post a link to the game and other people are playing. So those sorts of things work quite well. Anything casual, again, is going to work quite well. The mobile games market has been around for a long time. They know what they're doing, and that stuff does tend to translate well to web games because it's the same monetization model. With web games, you need a higher volume of players, but you get a higher volume of players, so it kind of balances itself out. And then kind of racing games and multiplayer games are the other ones. They do fantastically. Multiplayer games in particular have a really long tail, so that means you keep earning money for a really long time after release. That's because multiplayer games have this network effect where you you play the game because your friends are playing the game, and your friends are playing the game because you're playing the game, and you just keep playing the game, and that works really well. It's kind of a really good feedback loop. So multiplayer games do really well for a really long time. Other games do work. So we've got a whole section for thinky games. That's anything puzzle like. Those sorts of games are doing really well, and we are getting more and more kind of mid-core submissions now. We've got tech like Web GPU. We've got more and more mid-core stuff. So like MMOs. So we've got a game called Open Front or Front Wars, and those two do really well. So that's a kind of strategy type game. So those sorts of mid-core games are doing really well as well. If you want to do that sort of thing, you can put it on Crazygames, no problem. But yes, I think that's everything I have to talk about. So I will move over to questions now. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer. And thanks for listening.
Thank you for the presentation, Don. Now
What do we expect to see in a pitch at GDC? Shows that your game is fun. That is generally the best the best way to approach it. So pitching at GDC, make sure you can show us exactly how your game is fun. That's what we want to know. Typically, we will run most games through basic launch at least. If you've got any kind of metrics, then show us those as well. But It's not it won't be a really formal. It won't be a really formal pitch. In the same way as it would be with kind of the typical publishers. Manuzia asked, "Is there a specific type of genre that players like the most?" I assume you mean players on the on Crazygames. Not strongly. Most genres will find some players. Casual stuff does really well because it's designed for really short loops and is designed to kind of keep the player coming back. Puzzle games, anything daily, that can work quite well. But really, multiplayer games are far and away the category that makes the most money, essentially, just because of that long tail that I talked about. Cesarizu asked, "Do you provide funding to develop games?" I'm gonna say no, not really, but there can be opportunities. It's we've got a program for that. Everton is the person to ask there, but again, that's not really an open thing. It's something that we have done, and some games do get funded. But typically, those are going to be games that have already been through basic launch, and we can see they perform really well. So, if that's an avenue you want to go, please do make sure you've got the stats to back it up. So it's not something that we're not gonna be funding games in that sort of way. You want to have already released a game, had some really good stats, and then you can come to us. But it's not something that we offer to a lot of games. Should we go to the GDC pitch with the game already submitted to the basic launch process, or is it better to present it first at GDC before entering that stage? It's up to you. You can have it through basic launch. You can just turn up without it having gone through that. I'd say if you can have it be played by some people that aren't you or people you know first, that tends to go down quite well. My team currently developing a strategic farming type of genre game, but it's only for single player. Is it possible to reach out? Yes, please do. Like I say, any game can find a hold with players on Crazygames. We're expanding the genres that we have as much as possible. Like, genuinely, please do just reach out and submit your games. We're very happy to host them. We'll do the basic launch, we'll do the QA process, but yes, please do just reach out with your games. Is it possible to launch on Crazygames and Steam as well? Yes. You get an extra 10% revenue share when you choose to make your game exclusive to Crazygames, but that only counts the web. So Steam, mobile, you can do those. Console, you can do that as well. If you're going for an exclusive contract, that just says don't make it public on itch, don't post it to any of the other big platforms like Newgrounds or whatever. So that's what that is. But we do accept non-exclusive contracts as well, so you can have it both. Oh, sorry, that is my LinkedIn page, which is. It just links to this page. That's my LinkedIn. In the web game space, is it better to focus our resources on perfecting a few games or casting a wide net with more titles? I would say more titles. I would say that regardless of the platform, because the more games you make and release, the better your games are going to be. So you just want to keep releasing games, keep trying things. If you've got a game that's doing well, keep updating it. Every time you do a major update, we can put it on the main page again for a bit longer. We've got an updated tag, so we like games to have lots of updates, but just try lots of games. That is the biggest thing as a newer developer. That's what you can do to basically have the best chance at making some money from games, is release lots and lots of games. Typically, I'd see games released on Crazygames. You want a couple of months of development time, but that's only a couple of months, not a couple of years. So the iteration process is quite quick. Missed the presentation and like to know how you can submit your game to Crazygames. That is on. Let me just paste a link for you. That is here. You just upload your HTML5 game. It goes up there. There is. Let me see if I can get you the. Stop sharing my screen. 1 second, sorry. There you go. And that's what it looks like when you're uploading the game. So you give us a bit of information and then you upload the folder. We don't support uploading zips, so you just upload the folder and you can drag and drop it or upload it. So how long should I keep updating a game and start the next one? That depends on the game, depends on your process. I would basically, when you launch on basic launch, you'll get these metrics. So you'll get the average playtime, day one retention, and conversion. See how those are doing. If they aren't doing so well, and there's a really quick fix you can make to kind of bring the numbers up, do that. If it then starts doing really well, I would I'd have a month after you've fully launched where you kind of monitor the progress, see how it's doing, assess whether it makes sense for you to spend more time updating it, and then go from there. So it will depend. Are you guys open for both PC and mobile games? Yes. So about 60% of our users are on desktop and 40% are on mobile. I would really suggest you make your game playable on mobile at least. But yes, broadly we support both desktop and mobile. Do you have any kind of metrics or audience analysis, such as player types or behavior patterns that studios can review before creating a game? We don't have anything official. Largely, web gamers have very short attention spans, so you want to keep them coming back, and you want mechanics in your game that keep them interested for over a longer period of time. So leaderboards tend to work pretty well. So that works because players get competitive with each other and with themselves, and want to keep improving their score. Multiplayer again is really good for that sort of thing, because if your friends are playing, you want to jump in and play with them. But yes, largely they're gonna be not as sticky as if they downloaded the game. So because it's just a link, that means they can try as many games as they like, and they will only play the ones that they're having fun with. And generally, you want some kind of mechanics in there to keep them going for a bit longer as well. Do you have support for web GPU builds? Yes, we love web GPU builds. All of the major browsers support them now. That means we're very happy for web GPU submissions. I use web GPU for bullet hell stuff. I talked a bit about it earlier, but if you missed that, I have bullet spawning tech, and that works really well on web GPU. So it's not just for the kind of big, pretty 3D games, kind of arcadey stuff can benefit from that as well. But yes, we love web GPU games. More players using ad blockers. Do you think this will make games revenue worse for web games unless devs use an internal plugin running the ads? You cannot use your own ad provider on Crazygames. You have to use our SDK to show the games. Generally, we have about 30% of players using ad blockers. We also have in-game purchases. And kind of, so in our SDK, we have an option to detect whether the user has an ad blocker installed. This is where rewarded ads do really well, because you can grey out the button if they're using an ad blocker and say you can't get this if you're using an ad blocker. And then, so that kind of incentivizes players to turn their ad blocker off, watch the ad, get the reward. So you might have in an idle kind of incremental game, you might have like earn 10 billion gold if you watch an ad. That works really well because players really want that, So they'll turn off their ad blocker, press the button, watch the ad, and then turn it back on. So it's not as risky as you think, particularly when you're using rewarded ads really well. It is a problem, but again, like it's about 30% of players have them. And we've got in-game purchases as well. That's another way to kind of mitigate that. So it's not as much of a problem as you'd think, basically. All submitted games receive some kind of feedback, and how long does it usually take to get some kind of response? So any game that passes basic launch will have the full QA process on it. Some games might be rejected for basic launch. That typically only tends to be the kind of AI slop games that just aren't fun at all. So it does have a first pass through QA. You won't get too much feedback from that. That'll either just be it's rejected or it's not. Most games do go through to basic launch, especially if you put any sort of effort in. That'll go through to basic launch. You do your 2-week period of basic launch. You get your stats, and that's really helpful. And you'll get some feedback saying, okay, we might not want this because your basic launch stats are really, really poor and there's not much you can do to improve them. Or your basic launch stats are kind of middling. Here's what we think you can do. So most games will that go through basic launch will have feedback. They'll know why it was. They'll know why things are happening, basically. And how long does it take to usually get some kind of response? I'm going to say 3 days. It's usually a bit shorter than that. It's usually kind of 1 to 2, but I'll say 3 days because then the QA team don't get stressed. What are the most common mistakes developers make when submitting to Crazygames? That is a really good question. Submitting something that you wouldn't want. Submitting something that is kind of jam game quality. So you're making your jam games here. That's great. Before you submit to Crazygames, you're going to want to spend a bit of time polishing it up, adding a bit more content. The kind of games that you've made in a week probably aren't going to pass QA. So that, I think, is one of the most common mistakes that I see is basically players treating basic launch as a demo or a kind of early access test. Basic launch should be your full game. In my opinion, the first contact player game is... Sorry, Sarah, I don't quite understand what you're asking there. First contact player game is... Are there any genre or theme of games that can't be published in Crazygames? Your game has to have a rating of PEGI 12 or younger, so it should be suitable for people that are younger than 12. So don't go big on the kind of gore and violence, no nudity, none of that sort of thing. No gambling, like gambling with things that look like real money. So you can't have a poker game and have poker chips that convert to dollars or whatever, but you can have kind of fantasy-ish money. So you can have a poker game that has gold, and you're playing for gold. In terms of kind of broad genre, no. We do accept AI games. It's the games that are essentially just made in a couple of hours with AI that's not going to go. Is not going to do well. So you have to have some level of polish. You have to have had other people play it that aren't you or people you know. That tends to give you a better idea of how well it's gonna go. But we don't kind of outright block things. Don't outright block genres unless it's kind of nudity and violence. I've got a team of devs, but we're not a formal studio. How does rev share work? Can it be decided? You have one person that receives it, so you'll have one point of contact on Crazygames, and it'll be up to that point of contact to then distribute to the rest. We are broadly adding support for multiple team members to have access to a game on Crazygames, so you can have teams like that, but it would still all be paid out to one person. So you need to basically have a project lead. How does Crazygames decide which games get featured on the homepage? So we have broadly three ways you'll get on the homepage. New and upcoming games are there. Every game goes on there until it gets pushed off by other games. We tend to get 10 games a week. That number hasn't really changed for 2 years, so I suspect it'll continue to be about 10 games a week. So that means you get kind of 2 or 3 days above the fold on the homepage. For fully featured games, that's hand curated by us. So we pick games we really like. We sometimes sign deals with games. There's all sorts of ways we decide on that, and then also, as well as that, we've got an algorithm. This doesn't measure monetization. This measures playtime, day one retention, conversion. Those 3 metrics are really important. If you do really well with those, your game's going to be pushed to more players. Crazygames has some sort of support for paid subscriptions or just single in-game purchases. I think we do support subscriptions. It's done through Xsolar. Yeah, so it's done through Xsolar. We can have a conversation about that. I don't want to say I'm 100% sure we offer subscriptions, but I'm about 95% sure that will work. But that's kind of decided by Xsolar, so they're our payment provider, and they'll have some say of that. What makes a game publisher ready? So I wouldn't classify Crazygames as a game publisher. We're a game platform. We do some publishing work, but that's kind of a different thing. Publishing ready, basically, it's when you would be happy for the vast majority of players to be playing your game. So as a checklist, you want probably about an hour's worth of content. You want people who are not you or your friends to have played the game and given you honest feedback. Ideally, if you can watch them play, that's even better. And you want to have basically implemented some things from that kind of playtesting session. You want a really good level of polish. So visual polish is quite important. I've said before, but players on the web have quite short attention spans. So anything you can do to kind of make things jiggle and bounce and have confetti and all of those sorts of things, they're going to do really well. If I were a jammer participating today, what would I focus on to maximize my chances? Chances at kind of winning the category, or chances at being published on Crazygames? Publishing, to increase your chances, basically, what I'd be doing now is having other people play, and people that I don't know, people that I haven't interacted with before, get some way to get other people to play. To be honest, it's actually the same answer for both. Yeah, get other people to play your games. It's really important. It'll make you realize what bits you've been kind of putting off because you just live with, because you've been making the game and playing it. It'll make you realize what assumptions you've made that maybe aren't quite so good, and it will help you realize what the players care about. And those things are going to be the most important for publishing and winning the category. And that is the thing that I would prioritize above all else. In Crazygames, most games use US dollars for in-game purchases. I think Xsolar supports wherever the user is locally. So they are the what's called the merchant of record. So it's all handled by Xsolar. So I'm pretty sure every currency is supported. How does Crazygames see the future of web gaming in the next 3 to 5 years? That's a good question. I think it's going to increase quite substantially. Everybody's making moves into web games. So you've got YouTube have their YouTube playables now. Netflix had a go. Reddit have got Reddit games now. So I think just the number of people playing games on web is just gonna grow quite a lot. And I think the types of experiences you'll see on web will more closely match the experiences you see on kind of Steam. So you will start getting these really big, beautiful games that also work well on web. For Crazygames in particular, we're going a lot more social. So we've got leaderboards that will be finished up soon. So we've had leaderboards on the site for a little while. That's been a closed internal test with a few specific games. But so that'll be done really soon. After that, we've got parties and matchmaking. That's our next step. So kind of more social stuff, and I think like achievements and that sort of thing. At a platform level, that's where Crazygames in particular are going. You think crafting mobile-like games is better for the web games and bringing mobile players to the web? So mobile games, mobile style games, the kind of casual games, they do work quite well. If your game works well both on desktop in kind of full screen view and on mobile in a it can be landscape or portrait. But if your game supports mobile controls, that's better. Generally, it is so desktop web driving they are sending players to the mobile rather than the other way around because actually you just get so much more visibility on desktop web because basically we have so many players and most of them are using desktop. There's just a lot of movement from web to mobile rather than mobile to web. Hopefully that's helpful. Just wait for Savo to finish his message. If anybody else has any more questions, please do ask. Games that I've played, the most used ad mechanic that I've seen are store purchase and get a better reward if I watch an ad. Yes, those are the most used mechanics. Better rewards if you watch an ad. Basically, the player's already got a reward. They want more. They are more likely to watch a rewarded ad. So rewarded ads, most games will have them. They are by far the best way to get players to watch ads. There are none of the downsides of the regular types of ads. So with mid-game ads, players can churn, so they'll drop off and go play something else if they see an ad sometimes. So that doesn't work as well. And then banner ads have really low ECPMs, so effective cost per mile per million, I think. So banner ads you don't really have any downside except they're really low and they are seen by everybody. You get a lot of impressions on banner ads. Then mid-game ads are higher, but it forces the player to watch an ad, and that can be frustrating for the player. So they are more likely to drop off. And then rewarded ads, decent payout, and players don't. The players opt in, so tend to be much happier to opt in, and they're not so bothered if they're watching ads through rewarded ads because they've chosen to do that.
Someone else typing.
Yep. Lots of questions here. It's good. Hopefully, I've been helpful, and hopefully, I haven't leaked any trade secrets.
The answers are helping too.
When we submit to Crazygames, we need to pitch the game or just submit. You just submit. Yeah, just submit your game. That'll go through QA, then basic launch, then QA again, then it'll be released. But there's no needs to pitch. We're not like a traditional. We're not like a publisher like Devolver Digital or whatever. We're not like that. We're not. We're typically not giving you money for your game, like giving you upfront stuff. We're not funding publishing. We're not as involved with development. So you just submit, and we'll go from there. Should the Crazygames SDK be implemented before or after the submission? So for full launch, you need the SDK to be implemented. For basic launch, you don't need the SDK to be implemented. You can basically, if you've got a game that's pretty much ready to go, you can submit to Crazygames, go through the basic launch, see how it does, and then implement the SDK. Or you can have the SDK done before and it's fine. But during basic launch, monetization is disabled, so you won't earn any money from it. It's just a kind of pre-test. But for the full launch, it does have to be integrated. Right. Again, I'm working on better documentation for this, and we're working on better ways to kind of help guide developers through the flow and have these questions more readily answered on the kind of documentations and things. In basic launch, the games will be played from a real audience or a testing team. No, it's 500 players out in the real world, so that it's actual real players. Thank you. Yes, I've got 2 kids. That's why I'm so ill all the time. I've got 2 kids and do a lot of conferences, so it's just a double whammy. I'm constantly ill. Thank you.
That's sad and happy at the same time. I think that's it. Thank you, Don,
Yep.
and thank you everyone to be here. I think you can add him at the LinkedIn and talk to him.
Yes, please do. And I'll throw my email down here as well. It's dom@crazygames.uk. No, sorry, dom@crazygames.com. Sorry, I mixed up my personal email address and a real one there. dom@crazygames.com, that's the one. Thank you.
Perfect.
Please do send me a message, send me an email, message me on LinkedIn. I'll tend to reply. LinkedIn I check less, just so you're aware. Discord I check most. Emails somewhere in the middle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't wish you get better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys. If you have more questions about Game Jam Plus, you can ask me here on Discord too. I'm always here. Bye-bye.
Thanks.